Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just before I came over to this hearing room, I was down the hall in the Gold Room with the director of the National Science Foundation, and they had, there are now 35 projects that have been launched through the NARE. You know, they're all experimental, but there's a great deal that's taking place across federal agencies, NIH being one of them, and I think that FDA could benefit from that partnership. And also, it's my legislation to actually approve a full NARE. So democratizing all of this, the effort relative to AI. I introduced the Innovation in Pediatric Drugs Act to ensure that that pediatricians and physicians have the clinical data they need to safely prescribe new drugs and therapies for children. Today, drugs for rare diseases, and the term rare diseases has been mentioned at least maybe 75 or 100 times already this morning. They don't have to be studied in children, and it leaves them with it leaves them behind relative to the rare disease. More than half of all new drugs approved by the FDA last year were for rare diseases. So I have a series of questions. I'm going to ask all of my questions and ask you to remember the questions so that you can answer them, but I want to get them all in because I feel so strongly about this area. Would requiring post-market pediatric studies for rare disease drugs increase the number of drugs for use in children? If a company is required to complete a pediatric study, when is the study required? Before or after a drug is on the market? Under what circumstances does the FDA exempt companies from required pediatric studies? And how can we make pediatric studies less burdensome for drug companies without sacrificing the need to understand how drugs impact in children? So I think that both of these questions, all of my questions go to Doctors Cavazzoni and Marks.
Yeah.
You need to turn your mic on.
Yeah, there you go.
We're all dying to hear what you're going to say.
I'm happy to get us started. We think it's incredibly important that we study all diseases in the pediatric population, including rare diseases, and we think that the exemption to doing post-market studies for rare diseases is a problem because rare diseases overwhelmingly occur in children. We understand that this is a cause for some trepidation by developers and sponsors. I want to assure you that, as always, we would take a very sensible, pragmatic approach. We recognize the challenges in continuing to develop and generate safety and efficacy data, particularly for rare diseases, after they have been approved. And we would, of course, work with sponsors and developers to come up with practical and realistic ways of continuing to do that. It is also really important for rare diseases that we be able to study the disease in children before approval, and we are concerned about a decision a couple of years ago that would a court decision a couple of years ago that would curtail that, and we're happy to continue to work with Congress to make sure that we are continuing to have as broad a population that is studies for rare diseases before the drugs are made available in the market.
I think we need to go to Dr. Marks because I want to get a quick question in with Dr. Shuren as well.
Very quickly. I'd say I completely agree, and I think we can take a very thoughtful approach as necessary when there are diseases which don't affect children to developing policies for exemption when appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Dr. Shuren, bravo on your 15 years. That's quite a journey, and there's much to be proud of. Your center clears AI-enabled medical devices. How does the FDA ensure AI-enabled medical devices are being used appropriately, for example, in pediatric populations? so that, we're ensured that the children receive safe care.
So one of the key things is assuring that the data that's being used to go ahead and design, train,
Yeah, well, it's good
validate
data in, good data out,
That
and
is
if it's not,
exactly
then
right.
it's, can be lethal or deadly. Well, thank you very much for your work. I hope members will remember my opening comment about the FDA's budget, because as we pressure them to continue to innovate, to do more, they need a budget that matches what we're requiring or requesting them to do. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.
Thank you.